7 simple exercises to do at home that are better than walking. Walking is great, but if you are over 60 and only walk, you need to hear this. Walking does not strengthen your muscles, does not build real balance, and does not give you the stability that prevents a fall. A study published in the European Review of Aging compared 2 groups of older adults with an average age of 72 years, one group that only walked, and another that combined walking with strength exercises at home. After 10 weeks, the group that did both showed significantly greater improvement in muscle quality in the thighs. Muscle does not respond to repetitive movement, it responds to resistance, and without strong muscle, the walking that should protect you begins to expose you. That is why today you will see the 7 simple exercises to do at home that will change the way your body moves. Before we begin, please leave your name and the city you are watching from in the comments. We would love to know. Exercise number 1, Sumo Squat. The Sumo Squat is one of the smartest variations of the traditional squat for those in their 60s and beyond. Unlike what many people think, it does not require you to be a sumo wrestler or have the flexibility of a teenager. What it requires is simply a position with the feet wide apart and the toes pointing outward, and this seemingly small change completely transforms the dynamics of the movement. The wide base distributes the load evenly between the knee, the hip, and the glute, significantly reducing joint stress. A study conducted by Escamilla and colleagues published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research demonstrated that a wide stance in the squat reduces shear force on the knee joint compared to a narrow stance, making the movement safer for those with a history of patellar discomfort. The muscles primarily activated are the quadriceps, the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, and the inner thigh adductors, forming a combined effort that strengthens the entire base of the body at once. And speaking of the gluteus maximus, it is the largest muscle in the human body, and most people have never trained it intentionally in their lives. A strong gluteus maximus stabilizes the pelvis, protects the lower back, and reduces the load on the knees during any daily activity, from getting up from a chair to climbing stairs. Training this muscle is not a matter of aesthetics, it is a matter of independence. To perform it correctly, position your feet slightly wider than shoulder width, with the toes pointing outward between 30 and 45 degrees. Lower in a controlled manner, taking 3 to 4 seconds, keeping the knees in line with the toes. Rise in 2 seconds by pushing the floor with your heels, as if you were trying to push the floor apart. This mental image helps activate the glutes and adductors at the right moment, instead of letting only the quadriceps do all the work. The main errors to avoid are letting the knees cave inward during the descent, rounding the lower back, and letting the heels come off the floor. The most dangerous of the 3 is the collapse of the knees inward, as it concentrates all the tension on the inner side of the joint asymmetrically, something that over time can cause significant wear. Do 3 sets of 10 repetitions. It is contraindicated for those with an acute knee or hip injury. In these cases, reduce the range of motion by descending only 1/3 of the way until greater joint tolerance is achieved. Exercise number 2, Bird Dog. Few exercises manage to work so much with so little movement as the Bird Dog. It simultaneously trains balance between both sides of the body, control of the neutral spine, and motor coordination between the upper and lower limbs, forming a foundation of stability that very few household activities can reproduce. Stuart McGill, a spinal biomechanics researcher at the University of Waterloo and one of the world's leading authorities on spinal health, points to this exercise as one of the most effective movements for strengthening the deep spinal stabilizers without generating excessive compressive load on the intervertebral discs. Research by McGill himself indicates that the exercise activates the multifidus and the spinal erectors efficiently while keeping intradiscal pressure low, a combination that is difficult to achieve with other movements, and that makes it especially valuable for those over 60 years of age. The muscles worked include the deep spinal extensors, the gluteus maximus, the posterior deltoids, and the hip stabilizers. When all of these points work together in a single controlled movement, the result is a real improvement in posture and in the ability to remain stable during any activity, whether picking up an object from the floor or simply standing for long periods without postural compensations. To perform it, position yourself on all fours with your knees and hands on the floor and your back parallel to the floor. Simultaneously extend the right arm forward and the left leg backward, keeping both parallel to the floor for 3 seconds before returning to the center. Then switch left arm and right leg. Beginners should start with only the arm movement before adding the legs, allowing the body to learn the stabilization pattern progressively. The main error is letting the hip tilt to the side of the extended leg, which deactivates the target muscles and turns the exercise into an empty balancing movement without real load on the stabilizers. A tip that works very well is to imagine a glass full of water resting on your back throughout the entire execution. If the glass would tip, you are doing it wrong. Do 3 sets of 8 repetitions per side. There are no relevant contraindications, but those with wrist discomfort can rest on their forearms, muscles, using the elbows instead of the hands to relieve tension on the joint. Exercise number 3, glute bridge with elevated feet. The version of the glute bridge with the feet supported on a sturdy chair or low step is considerably more efficient than the traditional version with the feet on the floor. The elevation increases the range of motion for the glutes and the hamstrings, forcing these muscles to operate through a greater arc of movement, which means more time under tension and greater muscle recruitment with each repetition. For people over 60, this exercise is particularly valuable because it strengthens the posterior chain of the body, made up of the gluteus maximus, the hamstrings, and the spinal erectors. This chain is primarily responsible for protecting the lower back and stabilizing the hip. During walking and when getting up, two of the most demanding daily activities for anyone, you will know you are recruiting correctly when you feel an intense contraction in the back of the thigh and in the glutes. At the moment the hip reaches its highest point, many people only feel the exercise in the lower back, which indicates that the glutes are passive and that the lower back is taking on a load it should not be taking. Muscle awareness makes all the difference here. To perform it, lie on your back, rest your heels on a sturdy chair with the knees bent at approximately 90 degrees. Push your heels against the chair and raise your hips until a straight line is formed between your shoulders and your knees. Hold for 2 seconds at the top and descend with control without letting the hips hit the floor. The most common error is letting the hip drop to one side during the movement, which indicates an imbalance between the glutes and can asymmetrically overload the lower back over time. Also avoid pushing with the neck or excessively arching the lower back at the highest point, as both shift the tension away from the correct muscles. Do 3 sets of 12 repetitions. The elevated feet version is contraindicated for those with acute pain in the knee or Achilles tendon. In these cases, the version with feet on the floor offers the same benefits with less tension on the joints. Before we continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Having constant access to science-based information is what will help you progress with long-term health in the world of exercise. Exercise number 4, lateral lunge. The lateral lunge is probably the exercise on this list most directly linked to fall prevention, and that is not an exaggeration. Conventional walking works the body almost exclusively in the sagittal plane, meaning forward and backward. What it simply does not develop is stability in the frontal plane, the ability to control and resist lateral displacement of the body, and it is precisely in this plane that most falls occur. You may have a steady forward gait and still stumble sideways when stepping around an obstacle or missing a step. Can you imagine the impact of training this muscle specifically to prevent exactly that type of fall? A study published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity demonstrated that strengthening the hip abductors significantly reduces the risk of lateral falls in older adults, which are the falls most likely to result in a hip fracture. The muscles primarily activated are the gluteus medius, the tensor fasciae latae, and the hip abductors, responsible for controlling all lateral displacement of the body. The gluteus medius in particular is one of the most neglected muscles in home workouts and one of the most important for hip stability during any type of movement. To perform it, stand with your feet together, take a wide step to the side, land with the toes slightly turned outward, bring the other foot together, and repeat. Starting in the second week, add a 2-second pause on the supporting leg before bringing the other foot in, considerably increasing the balance challenge and the activation of the gluteus medius. The main error is landing with the toes pointing completely forward, which misaligns the knee and significantly reduces the activation of the target muscle. Do 3 sets of 10 lunges per side. There are no relevant contraindications, but those with a hip replacement should consult a professional before performing the movement with a wide range of motion. Exercise number 5, wall sit. The wall sit is probably the most underestimated exercise on this list, and at the same time one of the most efficient for strengthening the quadriceps without any joint impact. The logic is straightforward. While walking causes the quadriceps to contract and relax quickly with each step, in the isometric wall position it remains under constant tension for the entire duration of the set, generating a far superior strength stimulus to anything walking can produce. And since there is no joint movement during execution, the impact on the knee cartilage is practically zero. For those with a history of knee discomfort, this completely changes the equation of what is possible to train at home. What many people do not know is that the muscle does not distinguish between dynamic contraction and static contraction for strengthening purposes. What it recognizes is tension, and the wall sit is one of the purest ways to generate sustained tension in the quadriceps, the gluteus maximus, and the gluteus medius simultaneously, without requiring any equipment, any impact, or any advanced technical skill. To perform it, press your back completely against the wall, move your feet away from the wall, and lower until your thighs are close to parallel with the floor, keeping your knees aligned with your toes and your feet shoulder width apart. Your heels should remain firmly on the floor throughout the entire set. Hold the position for 20 seconds in the first week, 35 seconds in the second week, and 45 55 seconds in the third, with the goal of reaching 60 seconds over the following weeks. An important tip: maintain your breathing during the position. Many people hold their breath without realizing it, which unnecessarily raises blood pressure. Breathe in a controlled manner, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, as if you were trying to hold the position with the minimum apparent effort. The two most common errors are taking your back off the wall during the set and letting the knees cave inward. The first drastically reduces quadriceps activation and transfers the load to the lower back. The second concentrates tension on the inner side of the knee asymmetrically, something that over time can cause discomfort and joint wear. A third error worth mentioning is positioning the feet too close to the wall, which forces the knees to go beyond the toes and increases patellar pressure. The correct foot position should allow the knees to be approximately above the ankles, not beyond them. Do 3 sets with 30 seconds of rest between them. Those who feel knee pain should raise their position slightly, staying at 120 or 130 degrees instead of 90 degrees, thus maintaining muscle activation with even less joint load. This adaptation is not an inferior version of the exercise. It is simply the correct starting point for your body at this moment. Exercise number 6, standing knee curl. The standing knee curl, also known as a body weight leg curl, is the exercise on this list that most reveals a silent and very common muscular imbalance in people over 60: weak hamstrings. A study published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology demonstrated that hamstring weakness in adults over 55 years of age is directly associated with greater knee instability, reduced walking speed, and increased risk of falls. In other words, this muscle group plays a much more important role in safe locomotion than is commonly recognized. The imbalance between strong quadriceps and weak hamstrings is also a well-established risk factor for injuries to the ligamentous structures of the knee, especially when the body needs to decelerate an unexpected movement. The hamstrings serve two distinct roles in the body. They flex the knee, pulling the heel toward the glute, and they also contribute to hip extension during walking. Most home exercises work the second function indirectly but completely neglect the first. The standing knee curl addresses exactly this gap, isolating the muscle with precision and without the need for any equipment. To perform it, stand facing a wall or the back of a chair with a light hand support for balance. Bend one knee, bringing the heel toward the glute in a slow and controlled manner. Hold 2 seconds at the top and lower without letting the leg drop. The movement should come exclusively from the knee downward. The hip should not move and the torso should not sway to compensate. The main error is using momentum instead of muscular control, which turns the exercise into a simple leg swing without real load on the muscle. When you slow down the lowering phase, especially during the eccentric portion, the muscular stimulus increases considerably. Do 3 sets of 10 repetitions per side. It is contraindicated for those recovering from a hamstring tendon or popliteal tendon injury. In these cases, consult a physical therapist before starting. Exercise number 7, calf raise. I saved the calf raise for last, but I could easily have placed it first. Few people know that the calf is considered the second heart of the human body. This is not a figure of speech. The rhythmic contraction of the calf acts as a muscular pump that drives venous blood from the legs back to the heart against gravity. When the calf is weak or underactive, this venous return is compromised, favoring swelling in the ankles, a feeling of heavy legs, and early fatigue when walking, symptoms that are extremely common in more sedentary people over 60 years of age. Beyond the circulatory benefit, the calf is decisive for balance on the anterior and posterior axis of the body. It is the calves that make the constant postural micro-adjustments that prevent you from tipping forward or backward when standing still. Strengthening this muscle group is literally strengthening your ability to remain standing safely. The muscles worked are the gastrocnemius, which is the most visible and bulky part, and the soleus, which lies deeper, and is the main driver of the final push of each step when walking and of impact absorption when descending stairs. One piece of information that most people are unaware of is that the calf is composed predominantly of slow twitch fibers, which means it responds much better to longer sets with more repetitions than to short sets. This is the reason why sets of 8 to 10 repetitions rarely produce visible results in the calf. The muscle simply has not been stimulated enough. To perform it, stand with your hands lightly supported on a wall or the back of a chair for balance. Rise onto the balls of your feet, slowly taking about 2 seconds, hold at the top for 1 second, and descend in 3 seconds, without letting the heels hit the floor before the next repetition. The slow and controlled descent is the moment of greatest muscular stimulus and should not be rushed under any circumstances. The most common error is rising and descending quickly using momentum, turning the exercise into a spring-like movement without real load on the muscle. An effective progression is to perform the movement with 1 foot at a time, which practically doubles the load on the calf without the need for any additional equipment. Do 3 sets of 15 repetitions. It is contraindicated for those with acute acute tendonitis in the Achilles tendon? In that case, the exercise should only be resumed after clearance from a health professional. If you enjoyed this, make sure to watch the video where we use the most sophisticated artificial intelligences available today to monitor the most common side effects of creatine in people over 50. It is appearing on your screen right now. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and God bless you, my friend.